more on the big news from yesterday. Cam Rising is indeed out for the rest of this season.
There seems to be optimism within everybody that they're happy to be done with this, which it really is an unfortunate way to talk about Cam Rising.
Are they done?
Man, here's the thing. Is anyone going to put up money to pay for Cam Rising to come back next year?
You just told me he's one of the greatest quarterbacks in Utah history. If that is true, then the answer to that is yes.
His resume absolutely says he is. I wonder if because of the damage done over the last 2 years by people who have paid him, feeling like, why is my money going here, if there's just not going to be anyone lining up to pay him to come back next season. And I could see him suiting up somewhere else on a team that says, hey, Cam, you don't have to be the starter, but we'd love to have you holding a clipboard and maybe you play as a backup, but we'll give you $500,000.
Did he show up to his appearances? I mean, he showed up with that splint and signing. Like, stuff it. That's not the agreement that he's paid to win football games. That's not how it works. Like, it's
not how it's supposed to work, but it is pay for play. Utah's not doing it, but the donors are doing it.
So I would say I don't have any sympathy for those donors. And do you want what's best for your football program or not? Because apparently that's the sell, which, again, I find this whole thing frustrating. But if Cam Rising makes them better, then absolutely you apply for the medical red shirt and you try to get him out on the field to win you games. Yes,
you absolutely
100%. Why would they change? Why would they turn the page? I'd wonder if Cam would want to come back to Utah.
Right.
But if I were Cam, I would 1,000% want to play somewhere because there's too much money at stake. And B, if I were Utah, I would 1,000% want him back. If it's true that he's one of the best quarterbacks in Utah history, you think? I mean, they would have waited forever for Alex Smith to play one more year if he was willing to do it. So if he's that good, why would we so flip the day after, be like, well, turn the page? I don't get that.
He is that good. He was that good. I should say he was that good. Injuries have not allowed him to be that good, and his body will no longer cooperate. He cannot stay healthy enough to be on the field.
But they're all different injuries. You mentioned that too.
That is what's crazy. But he gets injured. He is injury prone. Whatever that means, he is injury prone. And they can all be different. It doesn't have to be the same knee over and over that's, forcing him to medically retire. But I do think you're right. I think he's going to find money to play next year because you and I both agree he's not an NFL quarterback. It'll be his last chance to make this type of money probably ever in his life unless he becomes a head college football coach or a coordinator somewhere. So he absolutely should try and play and go wherever the highest bidder is. And I suspect he will do that. If he doesn't, if he's got enough money, he doesn't want to run through it, he doesn't want to put his body through it, I totally respect and understand that. But
why would Utah take a pass? I don't get that.
I think this has been too difficult the last 2 years to continue to try it. Because you can't afford to do it again for a third season. And if you bring Cam Rising back again next year, look, Isaac Wilson might light up the world for the next 6 weeks. Utah's got to bring another quarterback in next year. You've got to bring in another guy.
Well, I don't think there's any guarantee that Isaac Wilson stays.
And maybe there's not. But yeah, you're recruiting another guy next year, and if Cam Rising's back, that hurts you. So I think you got to turn the page entirely from that aspect as well. In fact, it probably helps you coming up before this December recruiting window. When you have National Letter of Intent Day, that early period, which is the only period now, you've got to find a quarterback before then. And I think that's going to be a fascinating part of the next 2 months for Utah.
Well, we'll see. I don't see how Utah would be in any position to take a pass if he would come back. Is Zach Wilson's sophomore year going to be better than Cam Rising?
Isaac, yeah.
Thank you. Cam Rising's ninth year or whatever it would be? Probably not.
If he can't get on the field, yes. And the problem is you bet he can't get on the field.
Zach Wilson's not going to be one of the best quarterbacks. Isaac Wilson is not going to be one of the best quarterbacks in Utah history next year.
So the question is, would you rather bring in a different quarterback or bring Cam back? And I would say bring a different quarterback.
You're going to find a better quarterback than Cam Rising?
I want a different quarterback. It's not what
get back. I answer the question. Do you think you can find a better quarterback?
Yes, because Cam can't stay on the field. I firmly believe Cam Rising cannot stay healthy as a starter. And I'm not paying him what it would cost to pay at Utah to come back because if Cam comes back, he wants to start. But Cam might go play somewhere else for a great school as a backup and make $500,000 and say, yeah, that's good for me.
So you're saying that if Cam went to LSU and all of a sudden started lighting up the SEC, it'd be like, well, Utah made a good decision. She is turning the page?
Yes, because you have to understand that the injuries are not worth Utah investing in. And if we want to talk about why Jaquin and Jackson may not be back at Utah, there might not have been enough NIL money between Cam and him.
Yeah, we don't know that.
But we know what Jaquinton was asking for, and he couldn't get it.
Why would it be him or Cam? Why wouldn't it be he or somebody on defense, or or a corner, or he or a freshman?
Where do we think most of the money's going?
That doesn't matter. That's
yeah,
not
I think the money went to Dorian Singer. I think the money probably went to Brant Keithy. The money went to Cam, and there wasn't enough for Jaquinton.
So why didn't you mention Singer or Keithy? Why are you mentioning Cam? Then raise more money. I mean, nobody's going to feel bad for you.
I'm not saying you need to feel bad for you, but you need to be wise in your investment if you have a limited fund. If you have a limited fund, Utah picked.
So don't spend it on the guy who's won 2 conference championships.
No, don't spend it on the guy who's played 8 quarters in the last 2 years, is what I'm saying. If that guy who's played and was healthy for 2 years is coming back, great. But you're ignoring what's happened over the last 2 seasons.
I don't think you can hold last year. He was never going to play. And if Utah talked himself into that he was going to play, he was never going to play. You know how I know that? Because he hurt himself on January 1, and it was an injury that takes X amount of time to heal.
Yeah.
And that X amount of time surpassed the entire year. And yet 6 months later, people are like, oh, dude, he'll be out there game 1. If you talked yourself into that, that's a you problem. That's not a him problem. And so if there's some...
I'm not blaming Cam at all for any of this.
I'm not saying
None of this is Cam's fault.
I'm not saying you. I mean you. You know what I mean?
Well, the listener.
You made the argument that he couldn't be out there for 2 years. I mean, that injury was significant, 1,000%. So I don't know how much you can hold that against him. And if anything, for this most recent injury, there are one group and one specific person that I'm holding accountable for this particular year. And one, whoever the Gatorade person that person is that decided they were going to set up the table.
We want them on the field.
A little bit. Let's get it closer to the hash mark. That's crazy to me. Why did we not see anybody ever talk about that? The table was right next to the sideline. Whose decision was that? That's crazy. That totally got him hurt. Directly. You want to talk about indirect and direct cause and effect? That table hurt that player. And then the line can't block for 3 plays? He gets bent over by a pretzel on the 3rd play? He didn't make it a series. That's not his fault. That's not injury prone. That's block that guy.
But you stack those with the concussion, which again, it's a concussion sport. You're in the injury business. Football is the injury business. And then the knee in the bowl game, he gets hurt a lot. He just does. He gets hurt a lot. He's one of those guys.
Yeah, but
it stinks.
But Steph gets hurt a lot too, and look what happened. He turned into an MVP.
Yeah, right.
Because hasn't been hurt since.
Well, you can make that bet. And you can keep being the Clippers and hoping that Kawhi comes back and putting all your money into him. And meanwhile, the seasons roll past, and everyone just has to sit and watch because your best player's on the sideline.
See, I know we're way over, but I think this is interesting. I don't know what injury prone means. You can say, you don't either.
I don't.
I know you
does.
don't. Now, if you want to make the argument to me, his same knee's been hurt 3 times, it's structurally not going to be productive, right? Or Larry Bird's back, or that sort of thing. That one you can look into, you can say, okay,
yeah,
I understand that's injury prone. That knee keeps getting hurt, or that back can't get better, or whatever the case. But Dante Exum is
right.
Such
Dante Exum is the great example.
But a shoulder and a knee and this at some point
he's literally out right now for 3 months with a wrist injury.
How can you not just say that is all circumstantial? I mean, all circumstantial. And if you're going to bet on future, I don't know how you would be I'm going to pass on a quarterback because they're injury prone when it's not something. Brian Johnson's shoulder eventually prevented him from being an NFL quarterback. That shoulder was prone to injury.
Yeah.
But Brian's knee, and then he had this random stuff, and they were super patient for Brian, and all of a sudden it paid off with the Sugar Bowl.
But Cam is, finger.
So they were
head, shoulder. Yeah. Knee.
Now
ankle or whatever.
We're assuming it's an ankle. I'm assuming it's an ankle.
Here might be the argument. He's been hurt enough that he's no longer mobile enough to play the style of play that makes him great.
But honestly, Ben, when he put a whole season together, it's those historic seasons that you're talking about. So, I don't know. If you want to look at his ankle and say that thing's never getting better.
Or his knee's not getting better, and it doesn't allow him to be mobile anymore.
Then, I guess, turn the page there.
So he's going to take more hits, and when he takes hits, he gets hurt.
But if the argument is, well, he's injury prone, I don't know how I can't. That's always been something that's baffled me because If it's all circumstantial, that's not just, what, he walk under a ladder? And a black cat cross his path? Like, there's nothing explaining, because the shoulder ain't connected to the knee.
No, it's not.
Like, even Jordan Wynn had a bunch of different medical issues, but it was because he was a child.
He was tiny.
He was a child playing college football. That makes some sense. That's not even Cam Rising. You know what I mean?
Yep.